My name is Jennifer Morgan. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator with the Department of Game and Fish. I'm normally based out of the Albuquerque office, but I am currently based out of home still. So that is where my office resides. And so I'll pass the baton over to Jessica. We'll go ahead and get some intros going, and then we'll introduce our two wonderful guest speakers.
Hey everyone, good to have everybody here again tonight. My name is Jessica Fisher and I am the shooting program coordinator and I work out at the headquarters office in Santa Fe. Again, still at home, and you might have logged in and heard us talking about some events and things like that. We're still holding tight and unfortunately have no idea when we'll be able to do in-person events. So there is an event coming up in May for the youth in New Mexico, or well, I guess it's in June, that we are typically very heavily involved in, that we are not going to be able to participate in this year. So you might have heard that, and that's what we were talking about. So welcome.
And we'll go ahead and pass it over to Tristana. She can go ahead and introduce herself.
Sorry, I have my phones are going crazy. Good evening, everybody. I am Tristana Bickford. I'm the Communications Director for the Department of Game and Fish based out of Santa Fe. And I am super excited to learn tonight because I am headed, after we get done here, I'm headed out for my turkey hunt. So hopefully I learn a lot because I have yet to harvest a turkey. So fingers crossed. But Casey and Helen, you have to give me all your knowledge so I can be successful this week.
Awesome. Well, thanks. And our two guest speakers that we have on deck this evening is Casey Cardinal. She is our resident game bird biologist for the Department of Game and Fish. And then we have Helen Butt, who is with the National Wild Turkey Federation. And so with that, I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves really quick, and then we'll go ahead and jump into this evening's session. So go ahead. Helen, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. Like she said, I'm Helen, but I am located in the southern part of the state with the National Wild Turkey Federation. I'm actually the Women in the Outdoors coordinator for the entire state of New Mexico. And I have worked with these ladies many times. They've been my saving grace for our event that we host in August, which I just found out they're not sure that they're going to be able to come. So and we're not sure we're even going to be able to have the event. We're hoping so. And if I don't know if you guys can put our link out there, if anybody wants to kind of look to see. I know Tristan had put it in the chat last time. Our WIDO event usually runs in August. You can follow the NWTF Women in the Outdoors in New Mexico page to see if we're going to actually be able to have it. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yes, hopefully.
Excited. Thanks for having me back.
Oh yes, and we welcome Helen back. She was our guest speaker last time and did a fantastic job, and so she's going to give us a lot more specifics and hone your skills this next go around.
I'm more prepared. I'm not jumping off of a plane from
Florida. Yeah. Yeah, timing was a little bit off last time, but you adapted and evolved well, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Casey.
All right. I noticed Helen forgot to mention that she finished her slam too. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was doing when I was jumping off the plane from Florida. Yes, thank you so much. That was quite an awesome accomplishment. Great feeling.
Okay, well, I'm Casey. Like Jennifer said, I work on resident game birds in the state. I work on turkey and quail are my two primary species, but I covered dusky grouse, pheasants, and harvestable tree squirrels as well fall under my position. So yeah, hopefully we can answer some questions and get some turkey knowledge flowing. I, like Tristana, have yet to shoot my first bird. I've had birds in front of me and choked, so don't fret if you haven't shot one yet. It happens to all of us. So, but anyways, yeah, do we want to jump into the presentation, or?
Yeah, we can go ahead and let you take the stage.
Perfect.
Do you want me to open your screen share at this time?
That'd be great.
Okay.
So when Jennifer and Jessica contacted me, they said people have a lot of questions about where to go for turkeys. So I I'm the one who processes all the turkey harvest reports. So if you get out hunting, definitely submit a report. It's really useful information for us, and it helps us kind of track populations across the state. It helps us track hunter pressure. It helps us it really gives us a lot of useful information. So turkey harvest reporting is important. All right, you can go to the next slide. So New Mexico is pretty lucky in that we're home to 3 of the subspecies of wild turkey. There are 5 or 6 in the US. Sorry, it takes me a little bit. Merriams are definitely the most prevalent species in the state. They tend to be associated with most of our mountain ranges. And if you're gonna hit the woods, typically you're headed out for a Merriam's turkey. Rio Grande is our second most common subspecies. They tend to be associated with our river valleys. They did naturally occur into New Mexico from Texas, so like along the Canadian River, up along the Pecos in from Texas. That is natural Rio Grande habitat. They have been introduced into other places, so up like Farmington and actually along the Rio Grande in New Mexico, that is introduced territory. But they've done pretty well. They tend to be associated with like cottonwoods, and the nice thing about river valleys in New Mexico is there tends to be agriculture. The not nice thing is that turkey is really keen on that. We'll dive a little bit more into the specifics of all the different habitat types in a little bit. Finally, we also have the Gould subspecies. They really just occur into New Mexico from Mexico, right down in the boot heel, GMU 27, and I think that's 26. The Palencia Mountains and the Animas Mountains are pretty much their only range in New Mexico. And currently right now they are closed for hunting, but since they're on the state threatened list, but we've been doing a big research project on them in hopes that someday we'll be able to delist and maybe provide a little bit more opportunity for people who are looking to do a New Mexico like triple slam or 3-bird slam. So, all right. Oh, and I guess on the picture on the left, you can kind of see the differences. The subspecies can mostly be told apart by the terminal like coloration on their tail band. The Gould's is the one on the very top. It is extremely white. Merriam's is on the lower left. It tends to be like a white, creamy kind of color. And then Rio Grande, it's going to be more brownish. And as you look at Easterns and Osceolas, those are the 2 subspecies we don't have. They're very chocolatey brown. And so you kind of get that gradation from west to east of coloration. All right, next slide. So like I said, I'm the one who processes the harvest reports. And so if you're thinking about where to go hunting, you're thinking, well, where are there turkeys? And maybe where can I not encounter people? And so, like I mentioned, Merriam's turkeys tend to be associated with most of our mountain ranges in the state. If you do want to avoid people, these are the GMUs with the highest hunting pressure. And it really makes sense. Like the 34, 36 tends to be like a El Paso crowd, Las Cruces crowd. You're going to see that down in the southeast. And then pretty much anything close to Albuquerque gets quite a bit of attention. 10 is like the Zunis in Mount Taylor. 6A is the Jemez. 14 is the Manzanos, I hope. And then 16 is the Gila. We get some pressure from Arizona. 45 is the Pecos. That's going to be like a Santa Fe crowd. But you know, don't be discouraged if these are the units near your home. Yes, they see a lot of people, but yes, they have a lot of turkeys. So not only are they getting the highest hunting pressure, but they have the highest turkey densities too. So if you can get out there, get away from the road, I think that you still have potential to find birds. And I tell people who really want to hunt these units, it might be worth it to go on a weekday. The weekends in these units, I've hunted several of them. Weekend pressure is a thing. So, and really beginning of the season pressure tends to be kind of a thing too. A lot of people go out opening weekend and then taper off. So, I mean, it depends on their success rates too, but weekdays and maybe a little bit later in the season might increase your odds of running into turkeys and not running into people. All right, next slide. And so I threw this up here. It's so hard to relate hunter harvest success because some of these units don't see a lot of pressure, but they have really good success. So my guess is it's people from the area go to these units. Oh, I should have mentioned, I apologize. I'm sure you guys talked about it last time, but most of turkey hunting is over the counter. There are some units that are draw only or some units that are closed, but a lot of the state is over the counter. So anyways, going on with this map. So orange up in the right hand tends to be some of our units that actually have the highest harvest success rates. But really when we're getting the harvest reports, it's from like 200 hunters. Down in the yellow, back in 2018, 2017, 2019, these units all actually had pretty darn good harvest success for New Mexico. So in New Mexico, your average harvest success rate is about 25% depending on the year. In 2019, let's see, in 2017, it was 29%, 2018, 28%, 2019, 26%. And then last year, tag numbers were up and harvest success was down. And I'm not quite sure if it was because there were more people in the woods or more people, like new people were trying it. But anyways, harvest success last year was about 21%. So only about 1 in every 5 people harvested a turkey. And don't be discouraged. It's not that abnormal with Western states. Colorado's over-the-counter success rate is about 25%. Arizona, they have a draw only, and their success rates range around 20% too. So we're really on par with Western states. If you're thinking about Eastern states like Kansas and Texas, where the harvest success is like 50%, it's not an amazing comparison. They just have so much higher density of turkeys. So anyways, back to this slide. So up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a lot of private land, and I think that kind of biases these harvest success results, that it is people hunting on private. There are state sections up there and pretty good habitat near like Raton and like I said, along the Canadian. There's really a decent Rio populations. So if you're out in the east, it doesn't hurt to get out into where you might not think is typical turkey habitat, looking at the map on our website of the subspecies that I showed earlier. But if you are near some of those population centers, like I said, the 34, 36, 45, and the 16s, so that'd be the Sacs, the Pegos, and the Gila, they did clock in about that 25% harvest success rate not too long ago. Last year was a little bit of a fluke, but so they still provide good options. All right, next slide. All right, so I figured I'd dive just a little bit more into the specifics. I'm sorry if I set this presentation up wrong, but anyways, you can ask questions afterwards. So like I said, Merriams really are our most abundant turkeys. They're associated with mountain ranges and particularly ponderosa pine habitats. If you're thinking about where to target, most of the time they're found above 7,000 feet in elevation, because that's when you're getting out of that pinyon juniper up into the ponderosa pines. And that's the type of tree that they typically are going to be roosting in. They're not exclusive. If you have cottonwoods in an area or other large trees, they will use those, but a lot of times they are highly linked with this ponderosa pine. If you're thinking about where a turkey might roost, a lot of the times they want to be either towards the ridge top or mid-ridge, so that they can like fly in to the roost, either running off the bottom or soaring off the top. They're really not exclusive of what way they enter the tree, but they like to be kind of towards the edge of a branch or on the top of a tree. A lot of times we find them roosting on these hillsides with openings at the bottom. It doesn't have to be a big opening. It could just be a tiny strip of grass at the bottom of a hill. If you think about breeding season, the males are going to want to be in an area where, one, they can be heard a long ways when they're gobbling, and two, they want a little bit of space to fan out and have some hens. The hens are probably going to be feeding because they act pretty coy at the beginning of the breeding season. And so they just want that little open space to kind of do their thing. And then the bottom note, I don't know if it applies to New Mexico as well, but up in like northern parts of the Merriam's range, a lot of times they have found that roost sites tend to be on south or southeast facing slopes. All right. Next slide. Perfect. So I put these up, and this is kind of what I look for when I'm looking at like aerial imagery. And so these are just Google Earth snapshots. So you're up in the mountains. You can't see the curvature amazingly, but like you can see on the one on the left, the little like lines across the bottom hill, that probably is an old logging road. Turkeys a lot of time will come off the roost, go to an old logging road. That's perfect. Those openings in that picture, like that's really good grass area. They're going to be eating like seed heads. Those areas tend to be where snow melt kind of goes, and so you have water in the spring. And so those could be worth a shot because they have those like green plants that the turkeys are going to want after eating nuts and like old juniper berries all winter. As soon as green up comes, they're going to be wanting to snack on that food. And so the right is just another example. Like I said, if you can see the opening on the bottom, it doesn't have to be a wide opening. Like pretty much any of those like small strips could be potentially where a Merriam's turkey would go to display. And so if it was me, I would like try and get out there. I mean, Helen will talk more about strategy, but like if you get out there the night before, if you can try and get them to call to you when they're going to roost, or early in the morning. Turkeys are pretty vocal on the roost, especially during the breeding season, and they're scared by a noise they're going to be calling. And so if you can try and target them down to like one of those openings and set up maybe just at the edge, but a little bit back, looking at the opening, it's hard to set up in trees, but those openings are really good for hunting. So, all right, next slide. All right, and so I just threw like a little bit of public lands where you can expect to find Merriams. Your biggest one is definitely going to be Forest Service lands. At the elevation that they tend to be at, that tends to be almost exclusively Forest Service lands. Oh crap, I forgot to put state lands in there. BLM, there are some areas where you can get into Merriams and a little bit of BLM, but for the most part, you're going to be looking at Forest Service. The biggest Forest Service units I would think about, again, are somewhere in the Sacramento Mountains or the Gila. The Cibola has some really good options. The Carson, probably a little bit lower densities, and snow could be a constricting factor when you get up into the high mountains of New Mexico. I would maybe stay more towards the western side of the Taos Plateau. The eastern side tends to be a little thicker, even though there are turkeys in there. If you could hunt, if you draw the Vividal, harvest success rates are pretty good there. Like I mentioned before, areas around Raton, there's state trust land up there that could be worth a shot if you're up in the Northeast. So really there are a lot of options. Some of the wildlife management areas are closed, but some are open. I think the ones up by Chama, I think it's the Sargent and the Humphreys and Uraka and Cullen the Blit. Those are some of the northern ones. I think most of them are open for turkey hunting. I have to look, but I know that most of them have birds, have an option for folks that are interested in trying that out. So yeah, those are some potential types of public land to target. So, all right, next slide. All right, so if you're more interested in a Rio Grande, because let's face it, Merriams can be tough. They're called the tough turkey. They live in these crazy terrains. They are tough. Rios tend to be a little more gentle terrain if you can get into their habitat. They really do occupy those bottomlands. In New Mexico, the habitat outside of a river valley is really constrained. You get into mesquite habitats pretty quickly and these like shrubby, I'm kind of like desert shrub areas. There's just not as much for them out there. So they tend to stick to these river bottoms quite intensely. Often if you can get into like a healthy stand of cottonwoods, that tends to be a preferred roost tree. I just threw in the bottom, sorry, I took this slide from another presentation, that roost tree regeneration may be limiting. There's a concern in Texas, just because with some of the like variable conditions of streams, we do worry cottonwood regeneration may be a concern. And we see that in areas like along the Black River, but then you get further up north on the Pecos, like around Roswell or Fort Sumner, and you still can get into turkeys. So, all right, next slide. And so this is when I'm aerial imagery looking at Rio habitat. It's going to be something like this. Really, you're just looking for that river valley. The one on the left, they're so small, but like if you zoom in, you can actually see like decent sized tree, not just a shrub. Those tend to be cottonwoods. If you know somebody who lives near the river and has ag, a lot of times they have turkey problems. And so it doesn't hurt to knock on doors and try and get private land permission. The picture on the right is along the Rio, and there are some options. If we can go to the next slide. So for public land options for Rios, they're not as much going to be in Forest Service land. There is some turkeys along the Rio Hondo. They were introduced up there, or some Rios along the Rio Hondo. But like a lot of times it's going to be BLM lands. Bureau of Reclamation, they own some property along the Pecos and along the Rio. I'm pretty positive that's all open to hunting. Look in the rule book for sure. I know it's open to waterfowl hunting. There are a couple of open gate properties, and that tends to be people who have had issues with agriculture damage, and so they've opened up their properties for turkey hunting. If you're out of like Albuquerque or Socorro, trying to get like along the MRGVC, land is an option, especially if you can get somewhere like around Bosque del Apache, around Socorro. That tends to be where there are more turkeys along the Rio. But Bosque actually has too many turkeys, and there's some BLM and conservancy district lands that would be great to get people in. Man, they have a lot of birds. But anyway, so those are some of the like public land areas to target. For those who don't know about conservancy district, you can either go and get a key. I think the key is $50, and then you have access to like the roadways along the Rio Grande. Otherwise, you can park by the arcades and hike in too. So, all right, next slide if I have one. All right, so I just threw this in here. For those of you who have been out looking for turkeys, some potential options for a turkey sign. We're all looking for a bearded male, well, a bearded turkey in the spring. Tends to be males for the most part. And so this is just a couple things to look for when you're out in the field. Of course, if you see turkeys, the ones that look more black are going to be males because the tips of their breast feathers are all black. So they actually look a little bit more shiny than the females do. Bigger, of course. The middle toe, if you see a track in the sand and you're like, oh, I wonder if males were using this area or females are tracking the mud by a water pit. Males, especially mature gobblers, tend to have a middle toe from the bottom to the top that is over 4 inches. 3.5 tends to be a female. And then down on the lower right, the male turkeys, this is not always 100%, but for the most part, the males tend to have that elongated dropping, whereas the females tend to be a little wrapped up. So you're looking for like long, narrow poops, long toes, and dark turkeys if you see them. So, all right, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you so much, Casey. Really appreciate it. Lots of awesome information. And so Helen, we'll pass the baton over to you. Are you ready for your screen share?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, let me give me just a moment so I can get that organized.
That's fine. And a lot of what Casey went over, I'll kind of touch on, but probably not in as much detail. I'm glad Casey got to do that. I was really fishing for it on the last presentation, so she cleared up quite a bit. I'll touch a little bit on some of the things so it's not too redundant and repetitive, and go on. So
give me a thumbs up if you guys can see the presentation. Awesome. Okay. All right, Helen, whenever you're ready.
okay, you can go to the next one. So this one's kind of like what she went over. I pulled it off the website. You guys can pull it off of the Game and Fish website as well. It's really just kind of numbering the units so you guys know kind of what's close to where you are. And that's more or less why I put that up there. It's always good to try new units if you're not having a whole lot of luck in something where it's so heavily populated. I've hunted a little bit in the Gila. Probably more in the southern part of the Gila, kind of in the Silver City area. I've hunted there. I've seen on a cow elk hunt a whole lot of birds in the Luna, New Mexico area. I didn't hunt those, but I've seen them there. So I know they're there. I'm just not a Gila hunter. I'm more of the Unit 34, 36, kind of the Sacramento Mountains area. So I know that better. I did get to I took a lady it was a mentored hunt in the Manzanos, but I went with somebody who knew the area really well. And strange part about that, and we can kind of get into the size of the turkey or what have you, as far as the jakes and the toms. You're allowed 2 birds on your tag in the spring with a visible beard. She had a chance to take a jake and passed because there was a gobbler gobbling. And unfortunately, we had cold weather set in there in Albuquerque. And I guess that happens a lot where weather just changes crazy up there. And it started snowing. So the gobbler shut up, and none of us had cold weather gear on. Shame on us for not being prepared. But it was a fluke that it just changed like that. And yeah, she passed on the gobbler, passed on the jake, missed out on the gobbler. And you guys, I don't know if it's like a preference thing. If you have a chance to get a jake, and that's the only thing that you've seen, I highly recommend doing it. In Tennessee, you get 4 birds. I know it's totally different. Mountain birds and eastern birds are just totally different. But I did that on one of my hunts. I took a jake first because, you never, especially here, you never know what you're going to see next or if you're going to see another bird. So, and oddly enough, in Tennessee, you can get 4 birds. I thought that was wild. But anyway, next slide, and we'll go on for the turkey hunt. So what are you looking for? Casey went over quite a bit of what we are looking for out there. The things to consider, because like she said, are really water and feeding. We went out last weekend, and folks, do your homework. Like, there's so many people that want to go turkey hunting and they'll go out on a weekend. She touched on weekdays are great when nobody's out there. Preseason scouting is such a big deal. Like I was probably 12 or 13 years ago taking my kids out, just hoping on a weekend we would get, lucky. And it happens. It has happened before. But when you get out there and you're actually doing your homework and you're, setting trail cameras and walking the forest roads and, looking for water, all of that is, and then birds, just roosting sites. We found quite a few this weekend. Just, you're looking for, if it's a good roosting site, the tall trees, the ponderosas. You guys can kind of look over the slide, and I won't read each one of them to you, but it kind of touches on a few things that Casey talked about, the ponderosas and such, and the shelter. What we were looking for, like this weekend, and we found a few roost sites, was a lot of like we found areas where there was a lot of feathers, a lot of fresh turkey poop, and I mean like green, and they've been there. We were by a spring where there was a whole lot of like just green droppings, and I laugh because if you ever look at a whole turkey poop, it's like in the shape of a J is usually the tom, and I'll say Jake, and the females, they poop in like a beehive almost, so that's how you kind of know if you're going to study their poop to see what they are. I always say a beehive is the hen and the J is the Jake or the tom. So look for poop. We even, a really cool thing too, you'll know you're kind of in a roosting area, or at least where you'll see where they've strutted. And we saw on a part of the logging road where they go to strut, they drag their wings, and it's a really cool kind of like a drag in the dirt. And you can see scratches in the dirt too. You'll see just kind of like marks that kind of go at a quick angle from where they're scratching. That's all kind of in the roosting area, their breeding area. What they're looking for is water, water and feeding and digging in. And if you are in an area where you come upon like a dirt tank, or like maybe a habitat tank or whatever, look for the sign. Like, chances are there's going to be that imprint, like Casey was telling you about. There's going to be that imprint of the hen or the tom, and you'll be able to see them. And if it's still fresh in kind of the muddy area, they were probably there that morning. So one of the biggest things to get out there and roost them is, go as soon as they're like maybe probably 30 minutes before sundown, they're getting into those roosts. And the best thing to do, I would never preseason call until you're ready to actually call in a bird. The best way to roost these birds is with a locator call. I have never, can you guys see these okay? Can somebody answer? Okay, thumbs up, okay. These are crow calls. This one is a Primos crow call. This one is the hammering. I've got both of them. I wanna say this one was Cabela's and this one was Sportsman's Warehouse. I haven't seen crow calls at Walmart. You might be able to catch one there. Really just getting out there, and right before the sun goes down and they're in those trees, you just let out a sharp, like, and this, the night before is always the best way, just to, and you'll hear them gobble back. Were you guys able to hear that? Yeah, an owl call, I don't know that it would carry in the canyons and the mountain areas that we have. You could try it. I've never actually tried an owl call. I always use a crow call. So, and it carries through those canyons, and they definitely will gobble back. And just if you're doing a morning where you're trying to locate them, like maybe you didn't get to locate them that night, if you go out that morning, kind of go at the, I mean, it's kind of iffy but don't call yet until you're ready to set up. But if you just kind of want to locate them, you definitely, and you can do this at night too, but you can get out there on those logging roads right before sundown, right before daylight, and let out that call. If you don't hear anything, you can literally just go on. Like we've done it where we've driven down a logging road. We'll get out, crow call, you don't hear anything, get back in. Don't wait around for it, and don't do it again, because if you didn't hear it once, it's probably not going to be there. Go a little ways, or walk a little ways. We've walked and squawked is what I call it, and you can literally just wait until you actually can hear a bird. So if you've been in the area where you've seen roosts or roost sign, then definitely that evening get out there and try to locate them with a locator call. Now into the next morning, so that's really where you're using your ears to listen, and definitely if you've seen birds kind of in the area, or even you're lucky enough to see them going up to roost, that's awesome. So go ahead and oh, and one more thing really quick before you go on to the next slide. When I say do your homework and get out there and preseason scout, I know the season starts in 2 days, but this can be, and this is your trail camera, I know a lot of public lands, it's kind of like if you want to put it out there. This was it's a Tasco. I think we paid $24 for it at Walmart. If you're good with leaving a trail camera out there where you've seen birds, and you just kind of want to, the key to this one is being able to see what time those birds show up and on camera, so you can kind of time yourself, like, hey, they came to walk to that dirt tank or watering reservoir or spring at right at 6:30 or 7:30 or 8:30, whatever, and you'll know that that's the time that you're going to need to get out there. So these come in handy so much when you're trying to preseason scout and pattern those birds. So the next slide. Okay, so you've located the tom, and now you're just like, okay, what do we do? So spring turkey season, your objective is to develop the approach to get you close enough to call in the tom without spooking it, which is, like I said, we've had it to where we've cut it close. We got up a mountain. I took a gal out a couple of years ago. I didn't even get to crow call. I literally was like, I better go ahead and let off a call just to see, because we were starting to see a little bit of daylight, and that's almost cutting it way too close. I let off on a box call and heard the gobble, and we literally just found a spot. You need to park it and get in place. If you hear them gobble on the roost prior to the hunt, getting out there probably 30 minutes early, don't wait till it's already starting to get daylight. Getting out there in the dark is good. I would definitely invest in a headlamp that has probably either the green or the red light, because you don't want to get out there with an actual flashlight, because turkeys can see that. They have amazing eyesight, so being up there in the trees, that's going to make them a little bit skeptical if they see your flashlight kind of flashing through there, and they're going to be a little bit wary when they come out of those trees. So if you are going to set up a blind and you're comfortable in an area, maybe you got permission to hunt an area where you can put up a blind, that's good. That's awesome, especially if you're taking a youth out and they're kind of fidgety, or, they move around a lot. But I don't know, and I have not ever heard that it's, that they're going to see it and spook because they didn't see it there the day before. We set up blinds the day before and had good luck. So that's just going to be a personal preference, or just use a ground blind, made out of, trees. If you can get to where you can put some brush around you, but you still have a good shooting lane, then by all means, cover yourself. Or, our sometimes you got to hurry because they're coming in really fast, and you got to just kind of set up against a tree, get yourself set up in a position, and get ready to shoot, when they give you that opportunity. Moving to a calling site without being seen is going to be tricky, especially if they're coming in and you're kind of in an open area. Like I said, if you can just find a tree, a log, a stump, something, and just be very still, because they do have amazing eyesight. I've been told they can see the whites of your eyes, so camouflage is key. Mask, if you know how to do face painting, that's awesome. I don't. I actually use a half mask when I turkey hunt. Full masks, you can get these anywhere. I think Walmart has them, Sportsman's Warehouse has them. Just make sure you're covered, because they do have keen eyesight. They're pretty amazing as far as seeing. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so if you've never called before, when you're out in these mountainous areas, the box call really carries louder out there. There's all kinds of box calls. You can get them pretty much anywhere, all over Facebook. There's probably call makers that make a bunch. If you want to just kind of get one, just to kind of play around with it, you know, Walmart, any sporting goods stores, they carry box calls. Chalk them up really good. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can use playground chalk, or just, you know, regular chalk. That's what's going to be the key to your friction here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but really chalk it up really good. And that these are really good just for, because they carry so well in our mountains. These lake calls and pot calls is right here, and I think he's even got one on the picture there. So the key to these when you first get them, and I don't know if you guys can see this little piece of sandpaper, is to go in one direct motion when you're getting a brand new, either a glass call or a pot call, and you just sandpaper up and down in the same direction. Some people will do the entire thing. I do just a little section because, you know, when it's go time, I want to know exactly where I'm going to put my striker. You can also sand the bottom of your striker a little bit so that it's kind of rough, like this. You guys can use those scouring pads too, the kitchen ones. If you don't have sandpaper, you can just cut a little piece of that green Brillo pad. Those work too. And different strikers make kind of different sounds. So I have quite a few. This one's my favorite. But so really what you're going to do, you're going to go kind of in a pencil motion, and it says it kind of right there on there. You can look, you can go in a circle motion like an egg, or you can go in a, and friction is the key here. And you'll see, and the harder you press down, the louder you're going to go. And then there's going to be cases where you don't want to be as loud, especially when a gobbler's coming in. If everybody's, are you guys ready? You got your strikers and your pot calls? All right, okay. So just kind of go in an up and down motion against that friction from that sandpaper you just did. Up and down. The harder, the louder. So the harder you go in the friction, the louder you go. If he's coming in and you just kind of want to be easy to let him know you're still there.
So I think if everybody has their call, you need to unmute and call, so we can all be calling in turkeys right now.
Yeah, you totally can.
I'm not sure if you want to hear me.
Well, you know what?
We don't have a mouth call, so we're good.
Yep, rhythm is key. Rhythm is key. Someone said the dog is going crazy. That's why I'm doing it in my office. My dog's going nuts. Up and down, or in a shape of an egg. And here, I'll show you guys on a glass one. Can you guys see this one?
Oh, Christina sounded really good.
I'll do it again and tell me what you think.
Sounds good to me. I'm not maybe the brightest turkey in the batch, though.
And you can use, play around with different strikers. You can use different pot calls. I mean, there's the Manzano Madness guys made a few and sent them, for some of our, you can get kind of creative and awesome with your calls, and really just practicing and getting that rhythm. These box calls, if you want to go on to the next slide, and we'll go over some box calls. There you go. So really, and it's all, you know, they're all friction. Those are the ones where you have to kind of chalk them up really good. If you don't chalk them up, they won't make any sound. If you've got some box calls handy, you see how on that, on the slide, I guess it's to your right, how they're holding it. That makes a big difference in how the vibration is for how the sound's going to carry. These for our mountains are really good when you first get out there to call to a gobbler, because this sound will carry. So you want to yup, 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 yup. Are you guys doing it? Anybody? Everybody doing their box call?
That was good, Ellen.
That was good. Who was that?
That was Ellen.
Good, good.
What's that?
And then Tiffany, go ahead and do that again, Tiffany.
That sounds good. You've got that rhythm. That sounds real good. And they love that kind of like raspy. If you can get a box call that's got like a real raspy, kind of like a whoop, 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 whoop. That's just a real good yelp. The gobblers like that. And I was going to tell you.
Helen, we have a quick question that came in on the chat about kind of switching back to the slate calls. The question from Kira was, do you need to sand a glass pot as well or only the slate?
Yes, because, and so thank you for asking that, because I was going to bring that up. I only did a section of this so that I could exactly show you guys that. I don't know if you can see this, but do you see the glass? If you get on there and it's not sanded, you hear that? There's nothing. If you go on the friction, yes, you definitely have to sand the glass ones as well. And I only did a certain part. You always do the same friction, like I was showing you guys earlier, in the same direction. That way, you can do the whole thing. You can do, you know, there's turkey hunters that they'll just send that whole glass area. I do that because I know, you know, when it's go time, I know where to put my striker, and I'm not like, you know, searching and frantically trying to get a sound out. Because turkeys, they may be stupid sometimes, but they know when that's not a turkey. They know when that is not a girl. And so really quick, that we went over yelps. You guys were all doing a yelp. A cluck and a purr. Those are just to reassure the gobbler. So maybe you guys have got him gobbling and he's kind of got quiet, but you can kind of still hear him. To let him know you're still there, you can cluck. And the pot calls are really good for clucking. You hear that? Just kind of friction it really hard up into the air. That's a cluck, and that's just basically telling him, I'm still here, come on. You know, you can either cluck and he'll gobble, you know, and usually just, I do not like that striker, I'm sorry. So yeah, just kind of cluck. Now, if you want to purr, usually the turkeys will purr when they're feeding, but that also reassures him, and it kind of turns him on that you're still there. So you can purr. And that's just kind of a drag against your pot call with your striker, like a. Can you hear that? That's a purr, and that's just basically the hens do that a lot when they're feeding, but they also it kind of turns the tom on when he's a little bit closer. It just reassures him that she's still there.
So Helen, I have a question, because I am definitely not sounding as good as you. I have a different type of slate call, and it's actually kind of a piece of stone. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah, I can see it.
So this one definitely gives a higher pitch, but I definitely haven't really found, this is pretty new, and I have not really found that sweet spot. So I guess what you're also telling us is maybe a more seasoned call going to give you a different sound, because I'm definitely not, you know.
Well,
I
so
can tell that-
seasoned, I mean, you can honestly pick up any call and, you know, kind of scratch it out and just practice with it and play with it. And like, did you rough up your striker?
Yeah, I've roughed up both, just like a pool cue, how you would like rough it up a little bit, and
Yeah,
the same,
right.
and then rough up this a little bit.
Yeah, and just play around with it. I'm not familiar with that one, but if you're talking just for the purr, just maybe go like how you have yours. Probably you did the sandpaper up and down in that long direction. Okay,
Yeah.
so try and you're talking for the purr.
Yeah.
So just kind of drag it against the grain. And if you can, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah. I've also noticed too that the striker has like a certain spot too. So I don't know if the rest of you ladies are finding that same thing, that if I move the striker around differently, I can kind of like find that sweet spot and then work with it.
Yep, and it's gonna be total like just practicing with that one. Like, I don't know if you've seen some of these turkey hunters, they wear this vest that has just got every call that you can imagine. I have literally just my two of my go-tos because and you know, really getting out there, if you're out there doing and then you kind of switch, you know, he gobbles, you're trying to let him know that, you know, there's more than one hen there. So come on, you know, and it's okay to do that. If you want to switch it up a little bit, that's great, because that kind of shows them that, you know, there might be more than one gal there that he'll be able to breed with. And so I did want to touch on gobblers. I have never used one of these, but while we were in Florida hunting, the gentleman that got his bird, and I figured I'd go ahead and show you guys this just because of that. He was not having luck. The guide was using a hen call. The gobbler would gobble every once in a while, but you know, they could see he had hens, so he got henned up. He didn't care nothing about, she didn't sound good, sexy enough, whatever. And he literally, and it's just kind of like the bull elk factor, was like, and that pissed him off. Like, I mean, he literally came running, you know, like, oh, nuh-uh, you know, he's got girls with him, so I'm gonna go and, you know, basically I'm gonna fight him. Kind of like when you see people like busting racks together and the males get like territorial and like angry and they want to fight. Elk are the same when you're raking the tree. That's kind of what the gobble did for them. I've not tried it with our mountain birds, but you know, it might work if you're having trouble you know, bring it in with the hand call. You know, try a gobble. You know, maybe they'll get mad and decide they want to come and see what the competition's all about, because that's just their nature. So does anybody have any like questions about any of the calls, or, you know, how do you use them, or?
A question just came in from Kira. She was just asking if you can use a box call to gobble, but I think they're just mostly hens. Is that correct?
You know what, you can. I've seen people put a rubber band on there, and I there's like if you ever watch some videos, they shake them. They do like a, and I can't do it. I would go get something like this if you're gonna try it. There is a way to do it. And you guys, YouTube is, I said this at the last one, is notorious and amazing for if you want to sit there and, like Michael Waddell, I push him a lot because he's phenomenal. He's actually, I don't use a mouth call when I'm turkey calling because I'm still learning it. But he was showing the other day on his Instagram, like he would do the box call and tells you, you know, get the mouth call and try to mimic the sound that you're making. This is a Carlton cow elk call that I taught myself to turkey call on, and it doesn't sound great, so I'm not going to do it for you guys and ruin this. But if you want to practice one, that's awesome, especially if your hands are full, or maybe you're about to draw back on a turkey, you know, and they're coming, they're just not quite there. You know, you've got that mouth call in, you can, you know, or just a little just to get their head up and, you know, definitely get their attention, because you can't put the bow down to, you know, turkey call. So the mouth call is definitely awesome. Some shotgun, they do now make this one, it's a little plunger kind, where if you've got your shotgun up and you've got this affixed to your shotgun, you can do the little plunger, and it does a little call. So, you know, if you're by yourself and that you're the only one calling and you don't use a mouth call, then you can do that as well. Casey, I was just going to tell you, you remember Scott Lyric? We were out there on your survey, and we rolled up on I want to say it was probably a Gould's that was out there, and he balked like a chicken. He rolled up and went, buck, 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 buck. And I kid you not, that turkey went nuts. So I guess, you know, you don't have to be great, but, you know, just rhythm is key. Practice, practice, practice. Get on those YouTube videos. The Bone Collector has so many out there that are just amazing. Mimic what you hear, and that's going to be the key. The rhythm, don't overcall. One instance that we had where I used this call as a call in a bird for a gal. We literally, like, he shut up. And don't ever give up because you don't hear them, because they will come in silent. I know there's probably a few of you have seen a bird come in. They didn't say anything. They were gobbling at first. Don't give up. Don't get up and move to another spot. Don't, you know, get up and try to get closer. Sometimes these mountain birds are notorious for sneaking up on you, and that's exactly what happened. He came into 25 yards. I had like just stopped calling. I looked over, and to try to tell someone that there's a bird right there without going, hey, there's a bird, is kind of tricky. But, you know, I just kind of looked over at her, and like with the most deer in the headlight look in my face, I just was like, you know, I just kind of nudged her a little bit. She looked over, saw him. He was about 25 yards. I did a little bit of a purr, and that just like that totally turned him on. He like fanned out for us, gave us a little bit of a show. He started kind of walking, strutting a little bit. She was able to get her gun back up, because we had already thought that, you know, he wasn't coming. So, but she was able to get her gun back up. Unfortunately, her gun jammed. She finally got it up. He knew something was up as soon as he heard the click. Started to take off. She finally got the shotgun shell up into the chamber and took a shot at about 35 yards. He was moving, and she missed, but it was such a great, I mean, any day in the turkey woods is a great day, whether you harvest a bird or not. The experience is amazing. So does anybody have questions? Am I going over? I'm sorry. I could talk turkey all day. Y'all know that, right?
Well, the last question that just came in from Cheryl, is there a reason to use different sizes of box calls?
No, and it's really going to be your personal preference. There's, you know, the turkey aren't going to, you know any difference. This one's kind of, so some of them have more of a high pitched, you know, whereas, you know, this one may not be as high pitched. It's really just going to be your personal preference. You know, take a few, get into them, really just get comfortable. You see how low that one is? Kind of like a not so high, scratchy. And that's a whoop, 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 whoop. That's what you're really looking for, is just a turkey, a box call that's just got that kind of raspy, just a whoop, whoop, whoop. And get on those videos and listen to, you know, them doing these calls. There's so many how-to videos, even on the National Wild Turkey website, that can help you. Just, you know, play around with it, mimic it, and whatever is most comfortable for you, that's what you need to use. Is definitely, you know, if you want to change it up and you get comfortable with both, by all means do, because sometimes that's better for your luck. And, you know, they think that there's, you know, more hens out there, they're probably going to show up.
One thing I just learned from you, Helen, too, is just trying to mimic what you were doing, is pressure on the slate call. I sometimes feel like, oh, I got to put a lot of pressure to make a sound. And I actually realized the less pressure I had on my striker, I was actually starting to make a sound. So if some of you guys were having some issues with that, kind of ease up on the pressure a little bit, and you might have better success on that sound.
Yep, most definitely. And the lighter, sometimes the lighter, if you can own it with, you know, the hard pressure, that's the louder, the more kind of like, you know, when you're first hearing him gobble, kind of slack back a little bit, like she said, and, you know, get that, you know, where you can hear it kind of yup, 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 or real soft. It's like, hey, I'm still here, come on. And, you know, he'll probably even throw out a gobble, so.
We have another question that came in from Christina. Is it beneficial if two people can make hen sounds at the same time?
Sure. You know, if you've got a partner who's out there with you that's willing to kind of call, like I said, a lot of times, I mean, I wouldn't overcall, because there is a such thing as overcalling. I went with a few people last year that I would call, and then over there I could hear them a few ridges over, just And it was just on and on and on. And I was like, stop. And obviously we didn't get a bird because they know, you know, these turkeys, they know what it's supposed to sound like. And they would just walk and just keep going and, you know, just offer a little bit of constructive criticism that it's not okay to overcall. You know, you can call a little bit and just kind of wait. You know, that reaction from that bird is what's going to really tell you. And he'll tell you, or he'll show up silent. But usually, you know, it'll get closer. And there's a little bit of time, and it's always good to kind of let him know that you heard him and respond to him. It's kind of like a, you know, reciprocate kind of thing, you know, give and take. But then, you know, there's a time where you can play hard to get. If he's not, you know, calling, just kind of slack back a little bit and wait. You know, you'll hear him call, though, you know, especially in these woods, you'll hear that call. So give it a little bit, let him know, yep, I'm still here. And if he's getting closer, just kind of give him a little bit of a cluck just to reassure him, and get ready, you know, get in place and get that gun up and be ready to shoot him when he comes into range.
I think duck hunters have the same complaint that some people overcall. And so I think that's probably, you know, the case with any, with hunting anything really is, you know, don't overdo it. But I was wondering if this question got answered, and it was from Tiffany. It said, can you do a purr on a box call?
Yes, you can. And it's really just, I don't know if you guys can see it, just lightly kind of drag it across your box. You hear it? Y'all try it. Just slowly drag it. Yep. Yep. You got it?
Yep, Tiffany's getting it.
Yep. You can cluck with it too. You just got to be careful because you can't scare a bird away if you don't get it right on those. It's all friction, y'all. Yep. Drag it across there as slow as you can and make that little purr, little.
And then we had a box call question that I don't know if it got answered, and it asked if there was a difference in the size of box calls.
You can get smaller ones. If you guys can see a little bit, I mean, I think the more hollowed ones might make the more bellowy sound, kind of like not as high pitched, and maybe the smaller ones are going to be a little bit more high pitched. This one, can you see the difference in the size? Like the box of one is deeper than the other. And really, it's like how he's holding it, you know, just make sure you're not gripping it so tight, because it messes with the vibration of the sound.
Oh, we lost your video, Helen. I think you went to profile picture.
Hang on 1 second.
And then we also have one other question that came in. Kayleen was asking, after he gobbles, she waits a few minutes before calling again. Is she possibly overcalling?
Can you guys see me yet? Hold on.
Not yet. There we go.
Okay. Tell me the question again. My battery is dying.
So Kayleen was wondering, after Tom gobbles, that she normally waits a few minutes before calling again. Is that overcalling?
No, and that's fine. Usually, so you'll know, like, so when I first walk out into the forest and I kind of give that first, you know, at the crisp of light hen call, if he gobbles, just kind of wait a little bit, and you'll hear, you know, you'll kind of hear maybe a gobble here, a gobble here. Wait just a few minutes, you know, kind of get set up or what have you, if you're not already set up and in place, and then give it another one. Give it another, yep, 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 yep. And if he gobbles back to you, you'll know, because he's going to start to get closer. That sound is going to get closer. He's going to start gobbling, you know, and they'll gobble a lot more and a lot more frequent if they're coming. So you'll know. I mean, it's more evident that they're getting closer.
And
as they are, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, as they are getting a little bit closer, you can kind of play with it a little bit. You can still let him, like I said, it's like a whole talking and communication thing with him is, yes, I'm still here. You know, maybe if you know he's getting a little bit closer, but he kind of shut up a little bit, kind of give him maybe a little bit of a purr or a cluck, like, you know, I'm going to kind of eat over here, you know, then maybe give it a little bit of another hen call, and he'll let you know. You know, usually if they're getting close, they're gobbling their head off and they come running in.
And then we have another question from Destiny. Do all box calls need to be chalked? She thinks that the package, hers says that they do not. So she was just wondering.
Yes, always. I have never seen any that come with chalk. So, get yourself some playground chalk, or like I was showing you guys, and just chalk the bottom of it, chalk the sides. You'll notice the difference and if you pick up a box call that you haven't used in a while, or maybe it's just, the oils in your skin have rubbed it off, it won't make a good sound at all. It'll be awful. So you can use, I've got a big one, kind of like a sidewalk chalk, and then, like just school chalk. You guys see that?
And then Jess is holding up a picture of hers as well.
So mine came with the chalk. It's
okay, and that's awesome.
It's a Primos matchbox, and it came with a little doodad of chalk, and
good deal.
So
I do have one box call that has like, it almost looks like rubber on the edges, and that one you don't chalk. So try your box call out. If it sounds like a turkey without, then I don't think you need to chalk the rubber ones. But
yeah, the rubber ones, I think there's something with their friction. I have not used one of those before, so
yeah, I like that one.
What it's relying on is that band for friction.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got
cool thing. Go ahead.
Christina had another final question. If you hen call on the way to the tom, will he think you're coming to him and not come to you? Or can he not help himself and still come towards you?
He'll still come. So we were taking my son out, and it was, you guys don't ever think that just because the morning's over that so what'll happen with turkeys is after they breed these hens, and I don't even know how to say this without sounding rude, but they're still wanting women, they're still wanting the girl. So even if they've bred these hens in the morning and they go off to go lay their eggs, the tom's still, if it's spring, they're still, kind of frisky, and they want more action. So it can be 11 o'clock in the morning, and we literally were walking and calling. I say walking and squawking, but I would walk a little bit, and then I would hit the box call, walk a little bit, and I would hit the box call. And it was 11 o'clock in the morning, heading towards noon, and late season. I'm talking, it was probably the last weekend, and I was walking and kind of squawking a little bit. I'd walk a little bit, and I finally got a gobble, and we went towards him. So this answers your question. We walked towards the gobble. So we were getting closer. He was listening. We could hear him getting closer. So we quickly set up up against a tree, put my son up there, and and it was like him and two hens, and he was still, even though he had hens with him, he was coming. So yeah, he definitely can walk towards them. Just be careful.
Kind of just sounds like you need to have that conversation and kind of gauge off of that. So that's pretty cool. I did go ahead and put Helen's email in the chat. So if you guys do think of other things after the session this evening that you're like, darn it, I wish I would have asked, you can reach out to her. She's a wealth of knowledge. Same with Casey as well. We'll get her email up in the chat. So if you guys have any additional questions for her, then she can field those as well. Because I know that folks will have tons and tons of questions. And I think probably what we'll do is with Tiffany, we'll end it with the decoy question is, do they work, and is it worth it?
All right, you know what? I have harvested a couple of birds here in New Mexico using decoys in a blind. And then one where we just, we set up, put a hen. Now, I've read a couple of articles where, now we had a strutter, but that for the mountain birds, the hen and the jake are the best to use, because sometimes the toms will get intimidated. That actually did happen to me. I had a tom come in. There was a strutter out there, and then the hen and the jake, he kind of passed and went on down. He basically chickened out and went on. And then we had one that came in and was ready to fight, so he went straight to the tom decoy. If you have a chance to use them, it won't hurt. But I would probably stick with maybe a hen and a jake. So you could try, I mean, it's going to be trial and error. If you stick a strutting tom out there, you're gonna risk the chance of them not wanting to come in from either intimidation, you know, like chickening out and don't want to fight and they just go on. And that's just, you know, if they see one, sometimes if they see hens and there's the hen calling, of course they're going to come, you know, they're going to be curious. Hens will be curious. And a lot of times if you have hens come in, usually if it's spring, a tom will be shortly behind her. So yeah, if you want to use them, they're helpful. If not, just calling and getting them to come in, that's, you know, that's tradition here. So it's going to be whatever you want to try out. If you don't have any luck after you set those decoys out, then maybe don't use them in that area.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Casey and Helen, so very much for all of your knowledge and expertise. I continue to learn from both of you ladies, so thank you. But what I know about turkey hunting, I can still put in a symbol. I learned a lot on my recent, I learned a ton on my recent turkey hunt in Texas just a couple weeks ago. I'm like, that didn't work. So it is, I agree with you, Helen, a lot of trial and error. But don't get frustrated, ladies. No. Take it back with you to where, hey, that didn't work, or hey, that almost worked, and so you'll make it happen for sure. We're super excited for everybody who are going to get out in the turkey woods. I've already seen some youth hunters come back with some birds, so there are turkeys out there. You just gotta find them and sound like them for sure. But we would love to hear from you ladies too. So if you are either successful or not, let's hear your stories. And so send us emails, give us a call. I would love to hear all your successes and failures as well, because we can all share them together for sure. So maybe sometime we can have one of those social hours where we can share our failures and share our successes and learn from one another. So we can keep that on maybe queue for some time. But anybody else? Tristana, Jess, Casey, Helen?
Yeah, so
oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Helen. Mine's kind of a close. You got something to add?
My thing was just your position when you're getting ready to shoot. Usually when the bird's coming in and you've got your shotgun up, if you don't have trigger sticks or you're not in a blind and just be wary of using anything as leverage for your shotgun, because fabric moves. I've been in a position where I've thought the blind would hold the barrel of the shotgun. That'll move. Branches move. So if you're going to use anything to prop up your gun, make sure you're either using the trigger sticks or to keep it in place and steady, or just if I could, I'd show you and just kind of like sit up in a position, kind of Indian style, bring your legs up, and position your gun where you're comfortable to where you can make that shot. Because a lot of people, they will, when it's go time, they'll shoot and miss just because of where the shotgun is. So I was just going to say that last piece.
Oh, great addition. Thank you, Helen. Okay,
So
Jess?
my question is, have we decided on May?
I believe we did pick May 18th. I don't have a calendar right in front of me, but yes, I believe it was May 18th for the next one. And I think a lot of folks were asking about some spring fly fishing tips and early season scouting on the queue for next time. So somebody was asking about scent. Turkey really don't have that great a scent. Your eyes is what you have to worry about for sure.
Yep.
So
thank God they can't smell.
Yeah, we would never harvest a bird if they could see and smell. We would be in trouble. So.
There was a question about afternoon.
Be careful with scent, just because maybe another animal might give you away. I don't know, but yeah, I probably don't have to worry about it as much.
Yeah, and then we've just got one final question and we'll wrap it up so you ladies can go. But calling or trying to harvest in the afternoon, or is it just a morning and evening thing?
I'd say the golden hour is usually to roost a bird is the evening, and the prime time to get a bird is always the morning. But I've had luck in the evening as well. And like I said, that midday kind of 11 o'clock time frame where they leave the other hens and come to find more hens, you can look out. It's all going to be just opportunity, luck, and just kind of like getting out there and doing the work, the legwork. So, but yeah, you can definitely, the morning's probably the best time just because, you know, they're coming out of the roost and they'll come to you because it's mating season and they're excited to see some more hens.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Tristana, anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody and Helen and Casey. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. I do want to tell everybody, send us your pictures. If you send them to the department through our Facebook page, we can add them to the Hunting 2021 album and promote all of the amazing things that you all are doing. And I know if you tag Helen or the Women in the Outdoors program, that gets a ton of great feedback, as well as the Doe's page. So there's lots of social media, at least on Facebook, that we can help get some word out about how great everyone is. So thank you all for joining us, and I wish you the best of luck this season.
Good luck.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.